Do it.
All right. Hey, everyone, if you're here, hi.
Hi, we made it. We did it.
Welcome to the party. I'm Julie Sherwood, your Best Helps Wellness Coaching, yourbesthopeswc.com, joined by whoever wants to jump in, just jump.
I'm River Culver of River of Stars Astrology. I pass the baton.
Next. Maria, you're next on the screen. Go for it.
Okay. I'm Maria Schumacher, Vian at venus-13.com.
Okay,
Verone.
hi, I'm Verone Bright. The best way to contact me is on Instagram at Starship Moonbeam, or my website is veroneoracle.acupuncture.com. Hello.
Hello.
And
And I'm
Michael.
Michael.
Yeah.
Hello. My name's
Hello.
Michael. I'm also known as Uma. I go by whatever name might be appropriate at the moment. But so today you can call me either. And I have a website, oneskyastro.com. And that's all about me that's relevant for now.
Not large check-ins since we are late.
Yeah, sorry for the delay, everyone.
Speaking of wild Julys, I think we can just say Neptune conjunct Saturn in Pisces. Need we say more?
Yes, we are. We're
It's
going to say
been-
lots more for
Yeah.
the next hour and a
Yes,
half.
we
I
are.
think.
That's why we're here. Silly me. Okay, folks, here we are. Who would like to take this away?
River.
Yeah, River. Yeah, River.
You want me
What
to
started
start
all
this
this?
out?
Yeah.
I mean, what started this in terms of like, let's have a roundtable. I noticed that I was looking at, we just had a new moon conjunct Jupiter, so a Jupiterian month, but I also frequently check in on the United States chart, and I was like, what's going on this month, this lunar month in the United States? And I noticed we're having a Jupiter return this month. And so that was interesting, as we are still within our Pluto return in this country, and the Chiron return is ongoing. And I was curious about Jupiter returns happening approximately every 12 years. So not as often as, per se, our first ever Pluto return every 248 years approximately, or a Chiron return every 50 approximate years. However, Jupiter, this planet of just everything big, and it's just quite significant regardless of it happening with greater frequency. I started looking back at a few other Jupiter returns, and I noticed two ago was the 9/11 event. And that also, I was looking at that chart, and I noticed there's a Mars South Node conjunction in that chart of the September 11th events. And we're also having a Mars South Node conjunction this month that is happening right at the same time. I think 8 hours prior to the Jupiter return of the United States, we're also having a Mars South Node. And if you're following me still, I know there are a lot of pieces here, but that Mars South Node that we're having in Leo this month is at the degree of the sun when 9/11 occurred. So just following this breadcrumbs of patterning, and it piqued my curiosity, and it seemed to pique others. So that was kind of, let's have a roundtable.
There's more happening too, but that was
yeah.
it. That was the original. It was like, wow, July just looks lit. And
Yeah.
not in a good way or necessarily a bad way, but just a lot. It's extra. Yeah, I don't know where quite. I took off, but then I didn't check my direction beforehand. I just want to agree with you. on all that July's lit. And also note, we're moving towards in 2026 a Saturn half return for United States. Those are big. And then in 2027 we'll have the Uranus return. And so we're in a period of time that's just marked by intensity in the United States and worldwide. Yeah.
Yeah, and that conjunction with Neptune Saturn perfects in February of 26 on top of all of it. I mean, they've been dancing within less than a degree, and with retrograde motion, there's this back and forth thing, and then they literally come exactly conjunct. What is it, February 20th, I think?
Something like that. February of 2026 for sure.
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so this next several months is going to be this whole Neptune Saturn dissolution of authoritative social structure, boundaries, time, all of that.
Well, again, and it starts off the retrograde season. I mean, we had Neptune starting off retrograde season. I think reminding us, and I think it's good to keep in mind that this is still overall a time of dissolving, not a time of building. Even though there's all of this creative energy coming through. In the last couple of days, we've just had all of these sextiles and all of these sextile aspect sets, this creative energy supported by trines, it really wants to come through.
Yeah.
But we're still in a dissolving phase, as if, okay, how did I describe it? You want to make lasagna. Okay, so now I actually know what I want to make for dinner. The problem is my kitchen is a hot mess and I can't cook anything until I get it cleaned up. And
Right.
so I think we're still in that cleanup phase while at the same time becoming more inspired and more clear on what wants to come through us and what wants to be created. So all the expansive Jupiter and the Gemini and the Sun, I think is really helping with it. And that's kind of how we're starting this phase right now.
Yeah, definitely what you have to say, Maria, I vibe with, like, with Neptune and Saturn coming together, there is that clarity of like, okay, maybe I didn't see what the structure was or what the focus was before, what I wanted to build, but now I can see it. But you're not going to be able to build if the kitchen's messy or if the inner world isn't, there's not space. So for me, like what I see with Saturn and Neptune is this kind of masterclass of the soul. Like we are going to be forced, some people forced into like a karmic pattern, recognition. If you have all this karmic work to do and you've been denying it your whole life or many lives, or your bloodline hasn't done it, like the inner work and the shadow work is no longer a luxury. Like we are having to do it. You can do it, almost like let go or be dragged, like you can do it and you can face it and you can have that daily spiritual practice, Saturn, Neptune, spiritual practices, checking in with yourself, knowing your soul, or the universe, God, is going to be like, okay, you didn't do it. So now you're going to be maybe forced into situations to do it. Because in order to have that new structure come in, Neptune is like, we dream it, and Saturn is like, we build it. We're literally bridging like new realities. Well, where is it going to land? You can't make lasagna in a dirty kitchen. You can't build on top of a rotting soil. You're not going to be able to bring in new like soul octaves if you've got a whole bunch of like old karmic patterns of like lack and abuse and manipulation and control all floating inside of you. So really the most important thing you can do right now is be spending time with your soul, with yourself, having that self-awareness, because like nobody else can do that journey for you. Literally nobody. Like I'm a guide and I help people with my spiritual business. I can take people to the gate, but I can't walk through for them, So I honestly think that that's one of the biggest reasons why our souls are here, is for us to really have this like karmic like awakening so that we can become more. I mean, Earth is craving it too. Earth wants to be detox. Like we're all alchemizers, we're all these magicians, but most people have forgotten. So, the awakening process sometimes hurts like shit,
Yeah.
Saturn Neptune is so hard to like pin to one specific thing. But I think while it has one effect out in the world, which we see those Saturn Neptune cycles of conjunction. It's a 36-year cycle. We see it tied to communism, authoritarianism. I could pull up some great information on a website called Cycles of Time. Having nothing to do with astrology. It's just about cycles of time. And this 36-year cycle from like from like the writing of the Communist Manifesto, like the meeting of Marx and Engels, from the writing of the Communist Manifesto to like the last time this happened 36 years ago, I believe, 80, oh geez, 89, whatever, the Berlin Wall fell and the the Soviet Union collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
And it just really affects cycles of let's just say communism, authoritarianism, fascism. They move to this. I want to say, only as an aside, I'm aware that Marxism, as Marx and Engels promoted it, has nothing to do with fascist authoritarianism. But just to put a pin in that idea, I think inwardly it's allowing everyone to really give form, Saturn, to their spiritual world, and it's forcing us to purify. It's really forcing people to cut out the inessential, to get right with themselves, with the universe. It's been a joy to watch in some cases. As much a joy as it's been so dreadful to see this abuse of power roll out, stateside, and everything that's going on here.
Well, and it helps us learn to stand in our own sovereign power, right? Just like the things that Verone was saying, what you were just saying, Michael, it gives us that opportunity to really stand forward as ourselves first and not look to the external structures to tell us who to be, how to be, when to be, where to be, and all of that sort of stuff. We have to stand here first. And I've always used the metaphor of we come in tune to a particular note, and when our note is not in tune, we're in disharmony in the symphony. And we really, really are looking, and just through what you were saying, Roan, it's an opportunity for us to get back to that tuning. We may have those of us in the holistic arts show people how to get to that point, but if they don't turn the dial and choose to tune to their authentic selves, then yeah, we're in disharmony. And I think that's where we are right now. Everything and everyone is in disharmony until we can realign. And Pisces, hello.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that it can be easy to go way far out. And trust me, like, I want global change as much as like everyone else. But how can we individually expect for global change if you can't even have a conversation with the people in your immediate life? If you are people pleasing and abandoning yourself and shape shifting for other people's comfort, if you can't have that conversation with mommy and daddy, if you're bending over backward for your partner, if you're working yourself like a dog and making yourself exhausted and you're constantly putting yourself last, we are all these little fractals of this greater everything. Neptune and Pisces is like really like the God consciousness. And so like we're all connected. We're all connected in this web. And like I keep thinking, think about how freaking awesome this world would be if everyone was in their sovereignty, if everyone had self-awareness, emotional intelligence, they were soul-led, their hearts were open, like everybody, this world would be a completely different place. So yeah, I do think that the revolution is like, it starts with this inner landscape because the inner and outer are reflections of one another. It's like if you're always looking for like the president to fix it or the return of Jesus or whatever's happening, that people are searching for this like someone else to fix it. Freedom comes with responsibility. We have to step into our truth. We have to step into our power. No one can give it to you. You have to reclaim it. And the longer you wait, the longer you wait. Time does not heal all wounds. Time just keeps on going. So I do think that like it's a challenging journey for the ones that have been on it and having to like face it. Some people's karmic paths are more challenging than others, but the longer you wait, the harder it gets. It's like the longer you take to do your laundry, the more it piles up, and eventually you have like so much work to do. So that's why I think every day, little by little, take, just a little time for yourself every single day. And eventually, like, you're going to start to see the progress. If you start walking in a direction, you're eventually going to go somewhere. So yeah, I mean, this is why I love like journaling in the morning or taking walks, like really taking that time for yourself, because I think that's some of the most powerful work we can do right now.
One of the comments in the Facebook feed says, Verone, you are asking a lot, LOL.
Yeah, meeting life on its own terms.
hmm hmm
You can't show up with empty pockets. You can't
Right.
show up without a willingness to work like a pack animal.
Yeah.
Life on its own terms is not for the faint of heart. It asks a lot. I co-sign everything you said, Varun. I think that's how shit works, and I agree with you.
Okay, I'll be
But
sending
I
your
also agree with
contract
that.
over.
I also agree with that comment that it's asking a lot. I admit it's true for everyone.
Sure.
It asks everything of us.
Well, I'm
I
not
mean,
saying it's easy. That's why, like, these spiritual like leaders that are like, just say the affirmations and everything will be okay. Bullshit. Like, if you're not on the ground crying in a fetal position at times, it's not happening for you. If you're not like breaking at the seams, sometimes it's not happening for you. If you're not having massive like identity crises at sometimes, it's not happening for you. I don't mean it's always got to be that way, but there are
Right.
times it's not supposed to be easy when you're like pushed to that edge. Like everything's got peaks and valleys. Sometimes you're at the summit, sometimes you're at the foothills, and that's just how it goes. And if you think that you know everything, like you don't. And so I just feel like this is the human journey is to be alive, and like aliveness has a lot of sensations to it. And you just can't avoid it, you just can't. You can try, but it'll always find you.
Yep.
mhm.
Maria, you
Well,
were going to say something. Yeah.
yeah, and the importance, again, even just like being clear on what you want is not always that easy, because we get the emotional reaction, we get the emotional hit on what we don't want.
Right.
Mhm.
We get the emotional hit on what we don't want. We get the emotional hit on what we don't want. Like, oh hell. And you have to consciously move beyond that. You have to consciously think, all right, well then what do I want instead? It's easy to lean into, I'm hungry, but my kitchen is so dirty. Oh, I would like to have a place to put my car, but I'd have to clean out my garage. You know what I mean? It's so easy to lean into what I don't want, what I don't feel like, what doesn't seem possible. It's easy to lean into that. It takes conscious effort to be like, okay, wait a minute. And it takes will. It takes that fire of will. And I think so many of us are uncomfortable with that. What we've seen in the world is a resurgence of will that, okay, what is going to win, what we perceive as winning or losing is simply, I think, a stronger willpower. And a lot of people are uncomfortable with that because they want there to be good and bad. They want there to be right and wrong. And we want there to be angels making sure that good always wins and that love always triumphs. When it can very well be that the simple physics of it is the stronger willpower and the clearer vision, and again, the stronger will to pursue it, is what gets the job done.
And you know who's supporting that? Uncle Dave and Taurus.
And Jupiter.
And yeah, I'm thinking about that revolutionary energy of Uncle Dave, better known as Uranus, for those of you who may not know Maria's vernacular
Dave.
in the dailies.
Dave.
But Taurus, the stars of what we value. What do we value within
There you
ourselves?
go.
What is our self-worth, self-esteem, and how do we cultivate the resources we need to survive in this world? We are having to revolutionize that. Hello, Uncle Dave. I mean, there's no escaping that. It is now. So
Yeah, I would say that on an unconscious level, the majority of people on this planet have very low self-worth. And I would stand by
Yeah.
that comment because like you can say, "Oh yeah, I love myself" or whatever, but like do you
Do you?
really? But like are you choosing yourself? So many people abandon themselves. So many people like yeah, are waiting for something else to happen. And so like, you can think, the conscious mind is only like 5%. The subconscious mind is 95% of the show. And pulling from the unconscious. And so like this is why it's not about like what you want, it's about why you want it. You want to find your soulmate. Well, why? Is it because you feel like you're in lack unless you find this other person? You want to have money and a big house and all this. Why? Because you feel like it's going to finally complete you. You want to have like college degrees and this and that. Is it because you feel like you're inadequate like right here and right now? Because like abundance and self-worth isn't about the stuff. It's about you reclaiming your innate birthright of of value and unconditional love, it doesn't matter because there's always going to be a higher bracket to get to. It's like, trust me, I was like a degree chaser. I was like, maybe one day I'll finally be successful enough if I have all these certificates. Bro, it was not about that. I realized I was more sad at the top of all of that than I was when I started. So like, you have to really break it down and ask yourself why on a deep level. You've got to work with your unconscious.
Yep.
And for some people, that can feel like totally foreign, and this is why I think there's people like us talking about it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, Saturn is work and Neptune is the unconscious. And that's the order of the day. And in order to get out of the morbid state of mind that constantly being subjected to all that in whatever form it takes puts you to, we look to Jupiter. And this whole social movement, in as much as it's out in the world, the Saturn Neptune thing, I think a Jupiter return for United States is really something to look forward to. Like, no matter, I don't know, whose side you're on, if you've taken sides in this whole thing, which I get it. It was pretty polarizing, hard to stay in the middle on this one. Or I, not even just going beyond that entirely, just saying it can't be clear with the focus of energy being with Saturn and Neptune. That's not a clarifying influence.
Right.
But Jupiter return, and then also the Uranus return in 2027, 28, 29, that's going to show us where we're going. It's going to clarify, if anything, what we as a world, Jupiter is a globalist. If you hadn't noticed, if you hadn't watched his patterns over time, Jupiter is a lot of things, but he's definitely on board with global evolution, like moving out of nation state paradigms, just the same way we moved out of tribal paradigms into national identities. Jupiter has a prerogative to get us on one planet as one race, one species. I don't care how you think of it. We're one kind, one humanity. And that's a very Sagittarian Jupiterian thing. And I think that the direction that United States angles itself towards that goal, because that seems to be a universal goal, a goal of evolution, if you will. I think it's going to tell a lot. So I'm looking forward to this. What is it? July 22nd? Is that the Jupiter return?
I
You want
think
to pull up the chart?
Oh,
I said
man.
July 21st. That's the first pass. There'll be
Okay.
three passes,
Nice.
but that's the first pass. It's July 21st.
Well, and as you
Cool,
pull
yeah.
up the chart, what I wanted to tag off of what you were just saying, Michael, is that being in Gemini, I think is beautiful because it encourages us to take that global expansion into our immediate community. Because
Yeah,
Gemini is about
yeah,
that close,
it does.
tight-knit community, that part of your world that's close to the heart. And so when you can expand out into that community, singing your note, then again it ripples. And I think it's a calling to do that again. And this is an example of a community, the five of us right here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so what we're looking at now on the screen is the natal chart of United States and the inner wheel, and then it looks like I drew these transits for 22nd July, and that does look a little bit past the actual Jupiter conjunction, but we kind of got ready for this like on the fly, and so
Close
that's
enough.
just
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely
enough.
close enough.
Yes.
That's
Has
that's
it-
just an artifact of
It's still within a
there
degree.
being five of us, and yeah, exactly.
And it's going to continue, it's beyond that exact first moment, that first contact. It's going to be a theme throughout all of these passes,
Yeah,
Jupiter goes past and then we'll eventually come back. So it's not just one day, it's really like a window of time into next year as well. So.
yeah, and River, you had said that you had developed some thoughts about prior Jupiter returns, and I would love to sort of explore those. But I had also, and just as a placeholder for now, I also have some charts on the last time that Jupiter
Mm.
conjoined galactic center. So sort of like, now that's 2007, so that's not really relevant. But here, 2019, this was the last pass of Jupiter to galactic center. And I think this chart can tell maybe a bit about the flavor of Jupiter in this 12-year cycle, kind of like a natal chart to that cycle from a galactic point of view. So I have those charts, and that's all I really wanted to say. I am more curious, River, about what happened in 2013, or you had said that a Jupiter return was underway in 2001. Like maybe my timing's wrong, but can you say a little more about Jupiter returns in history?
Well, thus far, I've really just focused upon, because for a writing I'm doing this past one, and again, the one before that. So the last two cycles, Chloe in our group put up a whole lot of information. If you're a part of Radical Astrology and go back to a post I made about this, Chloe put up about many Jupiter returns of the past, is compiling a list. So I highly recommend checking that out for your reference. But really noteworthy events have taken place in the United States history. Again, 2 cycles ago, so it's 2025, so 24 years ago, 2001, the September 11th events, Jupiter had just made its first pass, and was just past its exact, about 2 degrees past after that first contact. That's when the September 11th events occurred. And something you can look at in the US chart that I've found compelling about is that Jupiter is opposite the United States Eris, the dwarf planet of discord.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think
Extra chaos.
truth, like Jupiter too, is a planet of truth, ruler of Sagittarius, these bigger picture truths, if you will. But I also think Eris is connected to this theme of truth. Something I've been researching is that one of her offspring is named Hercos. She has in the mythology of Eris, and his name means oath. And basically, like, he was the embodiment of the curse that would befall nations or a person if they broke an oath or if they committed perjury. So I think she has a really, like, through her offspring, you can understand many components of Eris. And I think this Hercos was thought to be the most severe, like this breaking of an oath, this committing of perjury, was like the most severe of all of her children. And I mean, she had children meaning like starvation and dysnomia is one of her kids. Like, they're all like pretty dreadful conditions, but Hercos was said to be the most severe. So this notion of untruth. So I just bring that in as something to look for with a Jupiter return, and as we're like in this Jupiterian expansion of our ideals. And I think Saturn Neptune is also representative of ideals and coming into reality, like the Saturn piece around idealism. But there is there's a truth piece with this Jupiter return. And the example in 2013 I have with that is the Edward Snowden revelations. If folks are familiar with Edward Snowden, that coincided with the previous first pass of the Jupiter return, the publishing, where he published basically he worked with journalists to publish the abuses of the surveillance state, unconstitutional illegal surveillance of the citizens, which was greatly expanded as a result of the events of September 11th. So those are some things that I've been thinking about around Jupiter return, and how to weave in this concept of truth, and there, the fact that there was a Mars South Node conjunction in what chart are you? I'm like, oh yeah, that's the one. So we're having this Mars South Node conjunction in Leo, and that's at the degree of the 9/11 sun. So just how these things are related. And this perfects just before, again, like 8 hours before that first pass of the Jupiter return. So I just think
I want to throw another ominous observation in there just to follow suit, because all this is so that's it's pretty heavy. And I noticed that Eris here for the Jupiter return itself, it will be stationed retrograde, one of July's lovely features. So inasmuch as there's resonance, naturally occurring resonance between Jupiter and Eris, that Eris is going to be still in the sky. It's pretty interesting. And
Aren't they
Mars in the
T-square
south node.
too?
They're
Like,
not. They're not. It's a quintile.
oh, okay.
A bit of a not the closest quintile, but close enough to be effective. Meaning that Eris is likely to creatively invigorate Jupiter's whatever Jupiter does, be infused by Eris in a constructive way, a creative way. Typically, quintiles like that.
Yeah. You know what I like most about the US's chart, though, is that Venus Jupiter conjunction.
Mhm.
I like that just Venus and Jupiter are right there. So it so when whenever Jupiter passes by, he's also passing by Venus, and that just we're always amplifying that the beautiful side of what we value. I mean, I know I'm going to sound like, Pollyanna and the fairy people here, but I do. I think that there is always a degree of we really did have the best intentions behind our creation. And I think that we always do. And I think it's important to keep that in mind, that however misguided or mistaken or oh boy did we ever hose that up that we get, we were created with the best of intentions. And I think that if we keep that in mind, we're going to continue to create with the best of intentions, with the caveat that we probably will hose it up again, but it's something to keep in mind.
well, I just
I
want
think, oh,
to
please.
well, just a quick, just Jupiter, Venus in the natal chart, and it just makes me think of how many forms of music, like hip hop, jazz, the blues, have originated in the United States, and just that contribution to art and to music, specifically thinking about that Jupiter Venus
Culture
conjunction.
in general. I mean, the Western, the United Statesian culture is kind of the way of the world in a lot of places. And that's not all a bad thing.
Yeah, I
Right.
think it makes a better ideal than it does, or maybe it's just part of that Gemini nature, but I think it makes a better idea, the ideal of freedom and hope, than it makes an actual example of how do you say, let's just say Venus, Jupiter, goodness in the world. I think there is goodness in the world, but I know some First Nations folks who would really disagree with you that we're always on our best intentions, doing always ever the best we can. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know the truth of that, but I think I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, that the universe is always moving forward and we're
And there's a
always,
note of it there. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's just that note of it there that
Well,
yeah. But you know what? I want to make an observation. I think it's the perfect time. I think that just like chickens, if you take baby chickens, I've heard of an experiment where they raised different color or shape of cardboard cutout over just baby chickens, and you can raise like Mickey Mouse's head, right, with his distinctive ears, and the chickens don't care. But you raise the outline of a chicken hawk, a hawk in the sky, a raptor in the sky, those chickens have never learned. But those chickens are old enough. There's like dinosaurs, right, that still exist. And those chickens have lived long enough to know the pain of the chicken hawk. Now, humanity is pretty young compared to chickens. But one day, if we keep fucking around, we are going to find out, and it will burn into our genetic code and the whatever animates us from within the realm of light. You can call it whatever you want, but I think we actually need to touch the stove, as it were, to really realize that it's hot. It doesn't seem to be enough that we told the stove is hot, and until people just get it into their system like chickens, baby chickens that just know, we just know on instinct that our own selfishness and greed, our own base impulses will bury us. They'll bury us faster than we even know how to respond to. Until we know that on instinct, we, we're, we're going to do what humans do, just foolishness at its finest. And that's just my theory. That's my spiel. And I'm
Well,
done.
yeah,
Thanks.
I kind of want to take that even further, Michael, of like back to the karmic pieces that I'm saying is like karma is cycles, like abuse is cycle. So like the cycle and the patterns will just continue forever and ever and ever because that's the nature of patterns and cycles
It's the
until
nature of any
some,
pattern to
yeah,
perpetuate itself. Yes.
until someone or something or group of is like, hey, no, we're stopping. So like back to the Jupiter opposed Eris, Eris is the one that has the golden apple from the tree of knowledge. And so like you do, and sometimes it's really hard to look at the pattern because you have to be like, oh wow, I was abused. Oh wow, we are committing genocide. Oh wow, like it's like it can be brutal to look at it, but unless it's seen, unless it's acknowledged, unless it's felt emotionally, there's no way to
Festers.
change it because it will just fester. Like you can have like a pile of like dog shit in the corner for your whole life of your house and like it could never clean up and could just turn into this like rot and like you can put a blanket over it and spray air freshener but like it's still there and so
right.
like we're gonna have to like look at some challenging truths in our own personal lives in ourselves and thus collectively in order to break these cycles. So back to the Venus Jupiter, yeah, I think in the United States chart Venus Jupiter is like the ability to like revolutionize ourselves, that pursuit of like freedom and sovereignty, and maybe that's there. And also we also have to know that this country was founded on genocide. We're literally standing on the bones of the indigenous people who lived here before and they still live here. And so like until it's fully recognized and accepted and felt, there's not going to be any real changes. It can't be
Right.
glossed over. It
Right.
can't be there's you can't sugarcoat
Right.
things. And so
Right.
yeah, and so like I
No, the
just think that
thinking
that's
that got us
important.
here. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm
It
good.
is
I'm done.
important. It is important. And the thinking that got us here to this precipice, it only moves one direction. It will only, if we want to turn around and not be compelled off the ledge, we have to engage a different brand of thinking, a different architecture of thinking, where that's one of the things that I think has been happening, not just specific to United States, but I wouldn't even put astrology to it. I've just seen that people are embracing wild new ways of thinking compared to I mean, if you look at humanity, hundreds of thousands of years, we kind of, I don't know, a lot of it's technological. And my thoughts aren't well organized on the topic, but um, I think that come the Uranus return and the Jupiter return in a couple of years, we're really gonna this is really gonna we'll see what's gonna come of this, in
So
an
like
outer world.
action
And
will
that
be taken.
Yeah, and that gives us time. It gives us time to prepare ourselves inwardly by clearing and cleansing and purifying our connection to,
Well,
whatever you think is out there.
and don't forget, Jupiter, Venus, as beautiful as it is, can also bring gluttony.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh,
those
yeah.
things we love and give us pleasure and all of that, Jupiter can expand that to the point where we go over that abyss, right?
Yeah.
And when you were saying, Michael, expand our thinking, Gemini, we have to be careful not to get so far off the edge that we don't come back to our own reality too. So,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
gluttony can take shape in any way, shape, or form that
Yeah.
Venus may portend, right? So it's a
Yeah.
matter of
Yeah.
finding that balance in that expansion too. Don't go so far that you can't come back.
Yeah, I mean, the
Oh, yeah.
paradox is, I think the paradox, back to even what Maria was saying, is like, we have to go beyond the good, bad, this, that, right,
Yes.
wrong,
Yeah.
or whatever. It's like the paradox can be, I mean, this is why my kind of far out woo woo thing is that like our hemispheres of our brain have been like too like divided, and we have to have this connection back that like there are always going to be things on this planet that are extremely amazing and beautiful, and also really like a what the fuck moment. I do think that this
Yeah.
is a world
Yeah.
that consists of duality. However, I don't believe that our human souls and the universe and God source, it's more of like a paradoxical of like all oneness. So it can be, I mean, I studied Chinese medicine, the Tai Chi, the yin yang symbol is this. There's yin inside of yang, there's yang inside yin. They're always shifting into one another. You can't separate them. To separate them is death. And so it can feel really challenging to be like, the paradox and hold the everything. That takes a lot of maturity. That takes a lot of emotional awareness to be like, okay, I know that there are things happening on this planet that are just like, oh my gosh, my mind, it's bending my mind. And also the birds are chirping outside, the sun
Yes.
is shining,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
like we have to do all of it. And this is what really stretches our capacity to hold more. I mean, regulating your nervous system isn't just like a hot cup of tea and a blanket. Regulating your nervous system is who are you, even like when things are chaotic, and so
Yep.
like this is really like, and it's gonna break down some people. Like it's not gonna be easy, but like things are breaking down. Like we have to like break things down internally and mentally, even like what Michael was saying about the ways in which we've thought. Like our neural pathways have to literally shift and change so that we can formulate new thoughts, so that we can make new connections internally and externally. Because like Michael said, we are one human race. Like this is one planet. We are one human race. Like we are one humanity. And so, this whole compartmentalizedness, I mean, I think the age of Aquarius has a lot to do with like bridging things together. And so like, what unites us all? Really, like what unites us all on this earth? I would have thought maybe we would have already gotten there, but we're not there yet. So like what unites us all? Like what can we all say like, hey, and like, because like for example, like you can say like stealing's wrong, but like what if your babies are starving? Maybe stealing isn't wrong, and so like there's all these different ideas of like, where are our morals? Like where are our values? Back to like Jupiter and Venus. And I just think that it's going to be an interesting time, and like we have to make sure that we can like be aware but also surrender, because so much is out of our control. There is so much that's out of our control. And if you spiral way too far out, you no longer are in the driver's seat of your avatar. And then like you're no good or help to yourself or anybody else. So it's definitely, yeah, we're growing here. We came here to grow. That's for sure.
That Pluto through Capricorn is
Mm.
about breaking down structures.
So, yeah, till 2040.
We got a long
or
way to go too. Till 2040.
So we have a comment, Verone, about the age of Aquarius. Because we know we're in the age of Pisces. It's anticipation for what's coming.
Yes.
Okay. Because
Yeah, I
we're
mean,
not tropicalists. Hello, people.
Yeah. And one of these larger ages, I feel like, where does it start? Where does it end? We're like at the end of the age of Pisces, that like influence of the age of Aquarius is coming in. With every age, with everything, there's like the good, the bad, the everything in between, the light, the dark, the everything in between. But what my guides have told me over and over about like something about Aquarius is that like all these pieces that have been compartmentalized have to come together. Like, for example, there's like MDs and like modern mainstream medicine, and then there are
Yes.
like shamans. Okay, can y'all come together and work together so people could actually have holistic health, or like things that it doesn't necessarily have to be these brand new revolutionary ideas. We just need to like put the plug in the socket and like create the entire circuit so that things are actually working together. And I'm not surprised that like tech is coming in, because that is very circuitry. So yeah, like trying to see the connections between the things.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. Yeah, we had
I
another comment. How many are departing this world because they don't want to do the work? Many, one way or another, in my opinion. And my response back was, some may not want to, but others may not be able to. Just plain capable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I literally just found out the other day that like a friend of a friend like just departed this world by choice of their own. And for me, I feel like every on some level you have free will, like, but you can't escape your karma. I know that for truth. Like, so if you don't do it in this life, you're gonna have to do it somewhere else. Like for
Mhm.
me, it's like I'd rather just do the dishes now. I'd rather
Yeah.
face it now. Like sometimes it can feel really like you're like I can't do it, but
I,
you can, and you were gonna have to at some point.
Mhm.
I think that's exactly one of the things that people come here to learn, to this world system, this planet, this earth. In my teacher was always saying this, and just in general, it reflected yoga and meditation philosophy. But the name of this world system in the old classics, the old Sanskrit, was Jambudvipa, which meant endurance or perseverance, and it defined the nature of this place. And they also believe that this world system was specifically placed in the very middle of a spectrum of connected world systems, ranging from like paradisical heavens to oppressive hell environments. And and even that's like a sort of a Christian oversimplification. It's the yoga and meditation philosophy outlook was a lot broader, maybe more multifaceted, but that's the basic gist. This and so to what you said earlier, Varun, this has the components of the brightest peaks of beauty and also the most insane hardships and evils can
Mhm.
take root here. It's a 50-50 um, mix from the way the old seers saw it. And they always advised that people here should, of course, do all the good things in the work, such as have been mentioned already, but just for those people who really feel that they're struggling or can't, my best advice is always going to be pace yourself for a marathon, because culturally we inherit a lot of messages about sprinting this one out,
Yes.
and it doesn't work. It
Yes.
doesn't work. It's
The
about it's just about burnout and using people as batteries and getting them to internalize and self-inflict this cultural wound, and just drop it like the hot rock it is, and pace yourself for a marathon. This is a matter, a journey of lifetimes,
Pluto Capricorn.
to say it lightly. Yeah.
Pluto
Yeah.
Capricorn.
Yeah, and I'm also going to
So
remind people that regardless of what is happening, each one of us still deserves to have experience bliss and happiness and joy and pleasure. Like you still get to have those things, because I see that like when a whole bunch of things are happening, people like it's almost like they feel like they don't deserve it anymore, or they can't have it. And like that is part of the perseverance. Like you're not going to be able to continue running the marathon if you didn't eat dinner and didn't drink water and go to the bathroom and sleep. So you
that's
have
it.
to, and also like part of life is to like we also get to have fun too, like regardless of what's happening, like that has to be like joy is part of like connection to your soul, like that has to be part of it. And so I know that back to the paradox, it can seem weird to be like, yay, I'm gonna have fun, when like there are people on this planet that are not having fun. And but we have to be able to do that too. We have to be able to have all of it. And I'm not saying it's easy at times, like it can really, really, really challenging. And you know, I think also even like, you know, because when you're going through like anxiety or confusion, like you forget your tools or you forget the things that you need. So for me, I think you know, writing notes of like, go take a 15-minute walk, like get the fuck out of your head, stop scrolling on your phone, stop like looking
Yes.
at like horrible image after horrible image, reading like bad, you know, news line after bad news line, and go like outside and like literally connect with a tree and look at a bird. Like do that, because like Michael said, like sprinting, where are we sprinting to? Like honestly,
Yeah.
like there is no
Early
like
death.
final destination. Yeah. And like with the like, you know, beauty and the like very like intense stuff that happens inside of us too. We can be healthy and vibing and like everything can be flowing, and also like we can be rotting. Like it's all like internally and externally. And like I just laugh just because I think existence is sometimes like really funny, of like the only certainty we have in life is that we're going to die. And I don't even mean that in a grim way, you know. It's like, so if that is our like the only thing that's certain, is like we might as well fucking live while we're here, because like that's
Mm.
really, we owe it to ourselves and everybody else, and to have compassion for people because we're all on our own journeys, and also
Right.
have boundaries and don't get entangled with other people's karmic shit because it's not yours to do. So like, yeah, I mean, it's a lot to hold. Sometimes I wonder how any of us are even functioning.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
this world is not for sometimes I think it's not much for ordinary people. It kind of grinds them up and spits them out. This is
Yeah,
really for warriors.
it really is. Yeah.
well, but it's again bringing it back to astrology. You know, the the messages and the comfort that we can get from that. No matter how fast and how furious and how, you know, in your face, I still think it's important to remember that this time when you going to what you all were saying about the marathon, Neptune in Pisces and Pluto in Capricorn.
Mhm.
It's about slow, it's about breaking down, and it's about this whatever seems to be being built right now isn't, you know,
Right.
it's because we're Neptuned here.
Yeah.
You know,
Pisces.
the Neptune effect is real, right? And I know, you know, Neptune gets a bad rap for being about illusion and delusion, but that might be a good thing in this case because we don't there can be something in us that reminds us that, like, you know, God, this doesn't seem real. When did I get in this wrong timeline? We're like, yes, exactly. Because it is all, you know, we are kind of in the underneath.
Hmm.
Because that is what the astrology is literally telling us. We're having things dissolved and breaking down, and there's no other foundation being created right now because Pluto's in Capricorn and Neptune's in Pisces. And those are for a while.
Yeah.
That's for a long time. So we may seem like things are going one way, but in the long run, we're in the long run, and they're just not there yet. And you can read that in the true sky, just like you're reading a proclamation. And that's something good to hold on to. River, did you have something to say for a while? You look like you've been, I think I just stepped on you.
Oh, I mean, a moment ago, I was going to say Maria has something to say because I was tuning into you. But I was just going to chime in that this Saturn Neptune, which is in its balsamic phase, you know, until they perfect in
Yep.
next year, that's the seed. So this is the very end of their balsamic 36 year, I believe you said, Michael. Is that correct?
It is,
36
yeah.
years.
Yes.
But this is the final balsamic phase, so that in terms of dissolving, surrendering, releasing. But I also wanted to say that this conjunction is also in aspect to both Pluto in Capricorn as well as Uranus in Taurus. So they're all talking, you know, but that's quite the configuration.
Well, and it's no
People
accident.
textile trine.
Yeah, and there's no accident Saturn's hanging out in Neptune. I mean, in Pisces, Neptune's stars, while Pluto is transiting Saturn's stars of Capricorn. It's like this is not going to be a sprint, people. Saturn is standing down for a while Neptune dissolves it all before we can rebuild it with the Pluto energy. It's no accident. So, you know, the instant gratification society that we're in right now, I think is our test, if you will. It's our lesson, it's our understanding. Yeah, go ahead and get that fast answer, see how that works for you. Like Varun said, that pile of shit's still sitting in the corner.
That's it. Yeah, like Verone said, you've still got to do the work. And whether you do it willingly or whether you wait until the universe throws it in your face, it's
Yeah, and find that community that can support you in that. I think that's part of the magic. Community can be one person. It can be a group of 5. It can be 3 people at the coffee shop that you're close to. You know, it's
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely not like I get a lot of people ask me questions like, "Can you recommend this book or this or that?" And I'm like, "It's a lifestyle, bro.
Yeah.
Like it's a lifestyle. It's you tuning into yourself every single day. There's like, yes, you can read books, you can do all of this, but you have to remember your actual soul, and every single one of us have been programmed with conditions. To me, this is why we're here. We come into these bloodlines. These bloodlines hold this like genetic code of all these programs and things that have happened. And a lot of people that are here are these like chain breakers or, you know, pattern disruptors, Eris, you know, and so we coming in and it can seem like I'm the black sheep and all this bad stuff's happening. Be glad that you're the pattern disruptor, or you're just going to be going with the notions. We're doing it forever. Like, actually, that path is way better. It can seem like it's harder, but on the long run, it's actually not. And so, you know, we have to do this, and it's not going to happen all at once. It's not going to happen in one day. It's little by little. There's many layers. We're like freaking onions. And so, like, you know, the unconscious, so it's like we keep going into it and like dissolving things down, becoming conscious. And so, like, I don't know if there is an end to it, honestly, because why else would we be here? I don't think you get to the one place where you're like, figured it all out. Karmic,
I hope not.
you know, because then why would we need to be here? We would just like honestly
karmic
be
debt, check box. What's that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Box done. Yeah, it's like I see that sometimes when people are like, "I've healed all my heels." I'm like, bro, no, I'm never gonna be like, I know everything, because like that's, you know, I'm not God, you know. And so I just feel like little by little every day, and then let yourself have some rest and play, and then like tomorrow's a brand new life, and everything's subject to change, and nothing lasts forever. Astrology shows us that, and
Hmm.
that's all you can do, and do the best you can, and don't punish yourself, and be kind to yourself, and you know, like, and that's really like all we can really do. There's really
Yeah.
no push into some final destination.
Yeah, no
Hmm.
shit. Well, there
I
is a final
agree with
destination
that.
for this body, but you know,
Yeah, well,
you know,
exactly, but our souls, I believe, are immortal, so
exactly. We have one
And
comment, but I
even
want to tag off of the play concept, and that is the fact that that South Node is now in Leo. So
That's
if
what
you
I
really
was
think
thinking
about it,
about.
it's reminding us as a collective to go back to the karmic memory we have of being that child. Go play, go be the little Leo lion, go dance in the water, jump rope, go sit with the birds and sing back to them. I mean, heck, yesterday I was sitting with my 2 dogs and I was literally singing with them. You know, anybody driving by would have thought I was wackadoodle, but you know what? I was having fun and they were too, you know? It's just little silly things like that that we forget in the quest to find the answer.
there is no answer. I'm going to go ahead and say that right
Exactly.
now. In quest for
yeah,
the answer, are you going to
Yeah.
I
find
don't
it?
believe in big bangs
No.
or cosmic endings. I don't. It's just this is just a dream that the absolutely nothing has. The universe does this. It's a perpetual motion matrix that we are not close to making any sense of. So I don't pretend to understand it. But I don't think that this emerged. I don't think that we live inside some kind of explosion in space. I think it's a little more nuanced than that. I think that sort of thinking comes from the set of thoughts that I was advising we kind of change in order to correct for the kind of thinking that got us here. Explosion oriented thinking is like why we smash particles together to try to find smashing particles together to try to figure out how atoms work is like smashing Formula One race cars together to try to figure out how a combustion engine works.
Yeah.
You're educated idiots, stop it, put it down. There are other things to do with all these resources.
Yep.
And yet, and yet we somehow have
Oh
to.
dear.
Oh man, we should.
Poor CERN. We love you, CERN.
Oh, I know, I know. Om Namah Shivaya. But honestly, no, really, the premise is flawed from the beginning. We do this explosion-oriented stuff, and I just I don't think that they're qualified to tell me about the reality matrix I live in. They're a little explosion-oriented, and I think
Mhm.
it's a fanciful idea. I don't, even if there wasn't some kind of black hole that just released the whole, who knows, whatever universe worth of material for some reason, where did that exist? In what matrix was that black hole, and where did it get its energy? It doesn't take an incredible logical tenacity to get back to this sort of infinite regression.
Like
I
a
think this
Mobius
is what
loop,
like a what?
like a Mobius loop that turns on itself,
Yeah.
no end and no beginning. Yeah.
I think the universe has just always done this.
Yep.
I think mystery of mysteries that this bootstraps itself out of absolutely nothing, and with perpetual motion and 99 point not a nines not even being there, it manifests vividly. I'm smitten. I'm in awe. I'll be back, it's amazing. But yeah, I digress. I just want to encourage people to think differently at the end of the day. I think that was the point underlying all that.
That's a really interesting, you're kind of blowing my mind right now because like if from the inception point it's about smash, boom, bang, no wonder we have war.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's what
Right?
we
Like
believe
no
we're
matter
doing here.
we're like smash, smash, I'll punch you until you agree with me, or like blow people up or smash. Like I've never really thought about it that way from like the
Oh,
inception point of the way in
yeah.
which we think about the universe being kind of like
That
big
right.
bang, boom, bleep, like in instead of it being more of like it always just was. It's this everlasting, ever flowing kind of like maybe if it was more peaceful or something like,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
really is since back to
It
Mars
really
and
is. It
Leo,
really is.
back to Mars and Leo, us forgetting that we are co-creating
Yep.
with God source, goddess universe. And so if we
Oh,
started
yeah.
co-creating like our inception point being like this kind of still pond of like ever
Right?
never
An
ending time
infinite
or something.
0 point.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I got chills. Like, oh yes, I got chills.
Right.
And 0 point is something we can always kind of come back to. Like I feel like a 0
It's
point
always
is like,
there.
and it's always there, and we're always kind of recreating ourselves. And that's what I think about like Mars and Leo is like we're waiting for somebody else to tell us what reality is. We're waiting for the Messiah. We're waiting for the right like president. We're waiting for this when we have forgotten that like we're waiting for is ourselves. Is that like we are co-creating. So like what world do you want to live in? It's like, well, what do you want to feel? Feel it in yourself now, and like, yeah, shift that thinking. I really think that we all do have the power, and it could happen quite quickly and quantumly, to be able to like shift back into this like everlasting kind of like peaceful it is. It's like, is your God gonna punish you and strike you down and send you to hell, or is your God like
Right.
unconditional love? I mean, really, like
Right.
look back into
Right.
the
Right.
books and the mythology. So
So that's a religious approach, but when you have a scientific approach, that goes
mhm.
just as deep to the philosophical core of your intentions and
Yeah,
actions. Yeah,
yeah.
so it's pretty amazing to reevaluate that,
Hmm.
and I love that idea of just a dreaming void, that
Well,
this is the void's dream instead of some kind of
look at the creation
Yeah.
of life. It is a breach of a boundary. It is a combustion point. The sperm breaching the boundary of the egg creates the life. So if you think about even from that perspective, it's still a kind of approach, right? Even
Mhm.
But
if
but even that isn't necessarily a Hulk smash. It's
no,
an
but
approach,
Let's hope not.
and the
right,
sperm still
but it's
has to,
still a breach,
you're
right?
gonna let me in, you're gonna let me in, you're gonna let me in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
So it's how
again,
we move with that, right?
it's not
In
force
creation,
majeure.
right?
Yeah.
It's how we move into that with creative energy as opposed to destructive energy. And I think that's kind of a key too. We have a comment here. I just don't want to lose sight of it. And somebody says, "What if you personally feel like your foundation is dissolving?"
I would say good.
You're probably picking up on
Uh,
I
you're
would
right
say
in
there's
tune.
something in your foundation that you didn't need. So
Yep.
like, and remember, this is what I would say to that. Your foundation is not depend your root is not dependent on people, places, like it's inside of you. So like I would say what question would be like, what inside of you is like unbreakable, unshakable, like what inside of you has always been there. Maybe it's like maybe you see a color, maybe you see a picture, maybe you feel a feeling. And I would go into that because we all have something inside of us that has been with us forever that isn't going to dissolve. Because what is dissolving may need to be dissolving.
And look to where your Saturn, where the Saturn Neptune conjunction is taking place in your chart and how it's talking to your chart. That'll give you some idea of the pathway.
I think a lot of times when people start to operate within a broader bandwidth of consciousness, let's say that ordinary people, just humans on Earth, operate within a narrow bandwidth. Let's say when we start to expand that and operate outside, we can often have a feeling that our foundation is dissolving. And I think that the thing that I agree with everyone's first response, for the record, whoever asked this, I agree, it's a good thing. But I also think that's not the full answer. And I want to say that in order to congeal something that makes sense in most people's lives, it's just a process. We have experiences which crack our shell and let increased light in and kind of amaze us, and the choice is always ours, whether we turn our back on that crack, whether we try to repair the egg, whether we poke at it, see what's there, do we get curious about the light. If I were you and I felt like my foundation was dissolving, I would look to the process as possibly indicative of a birthing or some sort of genesis. Like what I wouldn't focus on what you're losing, because likely it's already gone. But I'd focus on what's there, what wants to take its place, what wants to emerge, and what kind of foundation you want to stand on. Because at the end of the day, that's between you and the universe, and you have a lot of say in that, what you want to create under your feet, or if you don't like what's under your feet, where you want to move to. So I think I go through all that just to give a little bit fuller answer than just, yay, it's crumbling. That doesn't seem nice or fair in the final analysis. Although, yeah, I totally agree.
There's an expansion on the answer too, and the person says that this is going through her second Saturn return in the 8th house.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So
yes, you're not alone.
No, you're not.
Number one, we are all 5 here to tell you that you are not alone, that we all know exactly how you feel. So, and yeah, we sitting here, oh, yay, I'm having another Saturn return, and I really hope it happens in my 8th house because that makes fun. We understand. We understand. So what happens at those moments that you feel that your entire foundation is crumbling? We know.
I want to say the second Saturn return is a shift, and it involves a foundation crumbling. The first Saturn return is actually the entry into adulthood in astrological terms. We're not actually astrological adults until about 29, and that involves the dissolution of taking orders from everyone who's been through a Saturn return or two, or who's older than us. It just involves finding our own authority, right? And shifting into it. We become our own authority if we're doing a Saturn return with any gusto at all. And the second Saturn return is a shift because that second 29-year period, you're then in a seat of authority, and you act as an authority. You tell children what to do. But the second Saturn return, that shifts and that crumbles, and your interaction pattern with people takes a sweet downshift, if you ask me. I'm only 47, but I can't wait for my second Saturn return, because that's when you move into elderhood, and I say that very reverently and lovingly, not put them in a home. Yeah, but like they're a revered elder. They have wisdom.
We appreciate that.
Yeah. We all used to appreciate that culturally, but that's not our inheritance today. that second Saturn return, if what's dissolving is the way you're relating to people and you're looking for something new, the template for that is you are retired. You are an elder. You don't have to do the same works. You don't have to do the same actions. Get kids to lift those for you and start giving advice like an advisor or a consultant to the authorities, and step out of that shit show of being an authority over children and just enjoy being 58, 59, whatever, however old you are. Just sink into like retired life, like astrologically speaking. You don't have to quit working, but it's just a relationship. It's a relationship shift.
And then
And I want to
look,
I hope
point
that
it,
made sense.
I
Jude,
was just going to quickly say, and then look forward to the fact that your Jupiter return comes right after that at 60. That
Yeah.
that work you did with that second Saturn return, then you can just bloom into that Jupiter. Been there, done that, so I can say that. But anyway, go ahead, Melissa.
Oh, beauty.
No, and for this is where one of those, it's different for women and men, because for those of us
Yes.
inborn female bodies, that second Saturn return coincides with menopause,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
which is
Mm-hmm.
no joke,
No
right?
joke. No.
Menopause is a huge turning point. And it's gotten a bad rap. The more that we valued youth, the more that that particular rite of passage for a woman has gotten a very bad rap. Most of us fight it with tooth and claw, right? Because we're afraid of losing our youth, we're afraid of losing our beauty, we're afraid of losing our attraction as a sexual being,
Hmm.
which is what most of us have been subliminally told is our only value on this
Mm.
planet. So yeah. Um, and in that way, the second Saturn return also coincides with a literal crumbling of an internal foundation because of, and Verone can speak to this on more of a medical terms than I can, but your insides are literally changing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, as far as like the blood mysteries, now again, I'm still bleeding, so like I can't speak on that, but like we go the ones of us who bleed, we go through different kind of like blood initiations, like birth is initiation, starting your period is an initiation. If you have a child, that's an initiation, like menopause and initiation. I think there's probably one beyond that, but like, if it's like you're bleeding out your whole life, it's like I see that as like you're giving offerings to the goddess. You're literally giving offerings to the earth. And then once it stops, like almost like you become the goddess. Like you don't have to offer anymore because you become her. So yeah, it's definitely like a shift on so many levels. Back to that Saturnian shift, it's like a shift on how you interact with the world, but definitely with your body. And in the eighth house, like yeah, maybe like your sexuality or coming to terms more
Yes.
with like the finite temporariness of like your body and earth. And like, I just think that we all go through it too. I think these transits where everyone goes through them, I think is pretty interesting. Like we all go through the midlife transits. We're all going to go, if we however long you live, you'll go through as many Saturn returns as you're here. And I think there's something cool about the transits that we all experience, even if they're different. We all still are kind of connected. But and I like that the Jupiter return comes after, so there's something
Yeah.
else to come through. But yeah, I think this is a different time to probably connect with your body, especially with that eighth house and the like your sexuality, sensuality, like all of that, like shifting.
Well, and you think about it, you get your Chiron return, then you get your Saturn return, then you get your Jupiter return in that late 50s to 60. So you're doing the healing work, right? You're working with that wounded healer from a different perspective than just the pure wound. And then you can kind of transform as Saturn asks us to do in that authoritative structural way. How do you relate to that? Like Michael said, you step away from having to be the active participant in that. You can be more the guide, more the holding space from that elder point of view. And then you can just literally float with Jupiter and expand into that new part of you. And eighth house, I mean, good God, you've got Pluto in Capricorn, which Saturn's in charge of, and you're in your eighth house, which Pluto's in charge of. So you've got this Pluto Saturnian death rebirth thing going on. I mean, literally. So,
Whether people are men or women, octogenarians to centenarians, that's 80 to 100-year-old people, when surveyed, almost universally said that their 60s were their happiest years. Believe it or
Wow.
not.
Mm-hmm.
Almost
Yeah.
universal. Almost universal.
I can see
Nobody
that.
wants to go back to high school.
I don't.
No.
You couldn't pay me to live my 20s over again. You could
Oh
not
no.
pay
No
me to live my
way.
20s. I probably
I'm in my
wouldn't
30s.
survive living my 20s
I don't
over.
know how I survived my
Oh,
20s.
Right?
I barely survived.
yeah, I'll co-sign that. Once was bad enough.
Yeah, I wouldn't go back to my childhood. I wouldn't go back to my teenage years. I wouldn't go back to my 20s. I think things started like getting better in my 30s.
But after that second Saturn return and that fifth Jupiter return, people end up stable in their own skin, in their own bodies. They end up sort of centered relative to where they've been. So it feels like to them like, oh, well, I'm doing it. And they have resources. They've worked all their life and they have, they have 60s money. And that's nice. They can, that in many cases, they retire and get to enjoy it before their health starts to remind them of their impending death. So
Mhm.
I'm big on second Saturn return as a rite of passage that's really dignified and noble and uplifted. And I really want to thank you, everyone, but especially Maria, for giving voice to that. It crossed my mind, but menstruation and the women's journey, but I really appreciate you giving voice to that because it's a huge difference. And culturally, I've been amazed at how many women are unprepared for it. Just informationally,
Mhm.
men have no clue. But and just and it doesn't surprise me that no one educated me. Like, hey, at some point in your life, you'll be part and parcel to this. But it does amaze me that so many women I've heard from never got any instruction or guidance, wisdom, insight. So I don't know how your stories are, but for me, it's been mind-boggling dealing with that passage, that time wave towards second Saturn return.
Well, and I think we go back to what Verone was talking about earlier in terms of tuning internally, and this goes right in tune or in cycle with everything we're all saying. Our natural rhythms, our natural cycles. I've been preaching about this now for a couple years, and our culture, generally speaking, doesn't honor that. You got to be there Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, slog, 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 even if you don't feel like it. And what Maria was saying about the youth and all. It's like, wait a minute.
Right. To heck with your lunar cycle. We don't do
Yeah,
lunar.
honor
Yeah.
honor your own natural rhythms, and I won't belabor the details, but there was a study that somebody I know that wrote a book about it did that talked about looking at how when we as a small community honor our natural rhythms and our natural cycles, the community benefits. So instead of saying, oh, I'm weak for saying I can't handle this because I got to sleep today, no, 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 no. If you need rest, take the time to rest, because then the better you, the rested you, can offer more to the community. And imagine if we all did that.
Hmm.
Wow, that second Saturn return helps you understand that too and embrace it rather than trying to prove something out there to someone.
Hmm.
You know, took me 2 Saturn returns to figure that shit out. I mean, seriously.
Usually does, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that's the point in it. But anything else we can tie into the whole thing that started all of this? River, any other thoughts on Jupiter and some of the other things we've mentioned?
Well, I did want to point out, I mean, this is applicable to the collective, but that the Jupiter return takes place at the star Alhena in Gemini, which Bernadette Brady, a scholar of stars, talks about this star as one of the names being one who proudly marches, as far as like the heel of I think it would be one of the twins. I think it's Castor. But anyway, one of the twins. And so I'm curious if there will be marching, there will be causes, with Jupiter, our beliefs, if there will be some more of that activity. It's also thought to be a very artistic star, and we have that Jupiter-Venus conjunction there, and just something to think about with the artistry. And I mean, I was bringing up like hip hop, the lyrical Gemini quality. Jazz is very lyrical as well. But Jupiter will go on to conjoin the United States sun, which is aligned to the star Sirius, the brightest star system in the sky, where the sun is exact today, I believe.
Yep.
So by August, Jupiter will align to Sirius, first conjoining the US sun, which is in orb, and then going on to align with Sirius. So just for the collective, like whatever touches Sirius has great influence. Another name is the Scorcher. So that influence can be vast and glorious, in the sense that Sirius is connected to like the goddess Isis and that illumination, and just, but also the scorching quality. So this kind of paradox, like, you know, events could be that expansion with Jupiter. Like there could be opportunity and enhanced compassion and these qualities, and there could also be just like world events that have great significance, for better or worse.
Yeah. Well, and you're talking about the marching with Gemini's influence. That marching could be with your fingers and meaning words. What words do you put out there that are creatively constructive, but create a better way forward, right? So it doesn't have to be literally physically out there. It could be, but it could be you could march with your fingers on the keyboard. So think about that as an avenue too, people. I mean, there's ways we can put our voice out there. Work on your throat chakra. Speak your truth, but from the heart chakra perspective, with kindness and compassion. Find that center point that we talked about several minutes ago. Creating that march forward from the heart-centered point and the point of commonality. And I think that's huge, you know?
Yeah, something I'd like to say about the sun with Gemini, and this is something that I've gotten through my guides over the last years that maybe is like not something that's very like common, is that they've shown me that the Gemini Stargate is where the like three fates live, with that have the karmic loom. So back to like, I'm real big on karma, if like you haven't figured that out yet. Like the karmic loom, and that like, you know, who is weaving your karmic tapestry, like, and I have a meditation for that. Maybe I'll make it where I can give it free to the group. I do feel like it's very important, you know. So there's back to this like karmic piece, you know, even Gemini, you know, having that like polarity coming through. And when Sirius is activated too, like Sirius has been seen as like our spiritual sun. So back to tying back to like the spirit and the soul, like, you know, a lot of things is going to be brightened. You know, the light can illuminate and the light can scorch. You know, the light can allow you to see, and the light can also blind you. So, you know, making sure that you're always bringing it back to like a place of calm. You know, we've got, I don't know about y'all, but I got like a lot of voices in my head. And so like, you know, which one is the true voice? Like what path is the real path? Like which timeline is the real timeline? Sometimes you have to just like take that moment to like pause and come back to yourself. And you may have like some polarizing voices in there. I mean, Gemini can be that kind of like polarization, but like see what connects it. You know, I'm always saying like, look through the third eye of Gemini. That's like what I tell myself is like, okay, well, if there's something polarizing inside of you, or if there's something that's blinding and something that's illuminating, like what is the connecting piece? You know, like what allows, like, what's the thing that like both can agree on? Because like we are trying to come back into unity, you know. I think as a humanity, you know, instead of dividing, we're trying to come back into unity. And unity is like well, what connects us all? Well, we all, we all need food, or like inside of like you, like what connects the polarizing pieces as like the karmic like buildup is coming to the surface, as there's this like Gemini energy, as like Neptune and Saturn, we've got so many pieces like, I mean, astrology is always like that. There's so many working parts, but yeah, maybe I'll try to get that. I might have that meditation uploaded somewhere, but I'll share it to the group because I feel like it's really helpful. The Gemini Stargate.
I'll take it with all my Gemini activity in my chart.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, me too. I mean, yeah, like I got Gemini 10th house, North Node, Midheaven, like, yeah, serious.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Anything else before we call it good? No other questions have come through, and obviously if questions come on the replay, just tag us and we'll see it. We'll get a replay out to Rad Astro, and I'll get links to everybody for all of us to post on our socials. So wherever you found us to begin with, you'll find us some other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one more round to reintroduce ourselves. Verone, why don't you start?
Introducing.
Where to find,
Okay.
where people can find you, et cetera, et cetera.
Where to find me? Well, obviously on Facebook, if this is being Instagram at Starship Moonbeam. I have started redoing my podcast episodes, so you can find that there. My website is VeroneOracleAcupuncture.com. Yeah, I'm like all things, like I'm really focused on like healing the deep core wounds and karma, and I'm astrologically flavored. Yes, I do like astrology chart readings, but I'm really focused on like our souls remembering how empowered they are. That's like my main focus, and that we are made of like the DNA star seed, like we're comprised of the star material, so that's why we can heal with the planet stars, cosmos, luminaries. Yeah. Find me, follow me, tune
Yay.
in.
Maria.
Oh, yep. So you can find me on Facebook. I write a daily astro blog on this page and Cosmic Reflections Facebook page. I have a little Patreon, Maria's Daily Charts. I have a website, venus-13.com, that has some more of my esoteric offerings, and I partner with Julie Sherwood for something called Cosmic Conversations that we
Constellational, darling.
constellational conversations.
It's close enough.
Yeah,
Blah.
yeah, that we're very proud of. So yeah, you can find me lots of places too.
Yay. Michael, you're up next.
All right, I'm Michael. My website is oneskyastro.com, and my astrology is constellational and evolutionary. That is the very short. And I'll keep it very short today. Thank you.
Thank you. River.
Yes, so you can find me at riverofstarsastrology.com, River of Stars Astrology on Facebook, River of Stars Astrology Instagram, as well as Substack. Substack's kind of a new one, but it will be growing. And yeah, I do kind of a blend of constellational and Western sidereal 12 sign as well. I kind of merge those. But my main, I reference stellarium as far as my sign constellation delineations. So that's a mouthful. Anyway, find me at those places. You'll see what I'm about.
Thank you. And again, I'm Julie Sherwood, your Best Hopes Wellness Coaching, where I do constellational 13 sign astrology. And like Verone, I work with root cause work as a root cause therapy practitioner. Join my favorite little hostess with the mostest, Maria. We do a holistic health happy hour. We try to do it on the quarter moons, but we've been a little sporadic. But hey, we're going with our energy flow. And again, we also do constellational conversations, where we use a discussion-based approach to talk about astrology if you want to learn. We have 2 cohorts for that, so hit us up for that. yourbesthopeswc.com, and you can find all of us on Radical Astrology Facebook group.
Yeah.
Cosmic Reflections is another one, and then of course our individual socials as well. So thank you, everybody. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the stars. And may you all be well.
Bye.